All right. So, students, last lecture, I had started with a discussion, okay, with the topic groups. And a quick recap. When I talked about groups, I said one of the major reason why I would create groups is I can create a bunch of users, put those users in the group, and attach a permission on that group, right? Second thing is, when there are set of people in a particular group, I can make them work on some shared content, correct? So this is where groups plays a major role. So we'll firstly look at what groups are, then we'll look at something called as file permissions, then we'll do some exercise on file permissions and groups together. This is what I would be doing it. So let's try to see this here. Firstly, now we are going to look at how do we create a group, by the way, right? So in order to create a group, we will now use sudo group add developers, right? So if I want to now create a group, I'm using this sudo, which means the user has to be a sudo user or not in order to create a group. That is the first thing we need to understand. I have two accounts here. You notice I've logged in as Mike today. I'm not logged in as EC2 user. I've already created two users. As I mentioned in my last class, one Mike user is a sudoers user, right? Sudo user, and the other user Stalin that I've created now, he's not a sudo user. So let me create one more. Um, Basically, let me do one thing. Let's let's right click, open git bash, and this particular window, let me log in as Stalin, right? I'm logging into the same EC2 machine with two different IDs. The first ID, I have logged in with Mike. Mike is a sudo user. Super user is what Mike is. But now I log in with Stalin, SSH. Then I will use what? Stalin at the rate. And let me paste the IP address here. So this is the IP address. Let me paste this here. And I'll give here the password. Fine. Now, I have two different accounts. One who is not a sudo user, that is Stalin, and the other one is what? Mike. Now, you know very well how to create a sudo users. I will create a group at the first place. How to create a group? So the command is simple, sudo group add developers. Now, let me use this command, sudo group add developers. So I will go to this git bash. See here, this was Stalin. I will just add sudo group add developers, or any name that you want to give it, you can give it. I'll give the name as what? Test. Fine. Now, once I basically give it here as test, right? Once I give it here as test, observe here now. So I was just talking about the theory part, guys. Now only I've started with the practicals. I have two accounts. You know very well how to log into this account. This is one window and this is another window. Fine. Now this window I've logged in as Mike. The last lecture we saw how to log in with usernames and password. So I've made Mike here as a admin and Stalin here, I have made that as a normal user. So I'm going to now create a group. But in order to create a group, firstly I'm using Stalin and I'm applying a sudo group add test. And it is asking for the password. I'm giving the password and says Stalin is not in sudoers file. So Stalin cannot execute this particular command to add basically a group. To create a new group, Stalin cannot do it because he's not a sudo user. So certain commands only sudo users can execute. But on the other hand, I have Mike. Now I will paste the same command here, which is what? What is that command? Can you tell me? Sudo, what is that? Group add, let's call that as team. And now when I add this particular command, let's see that here it's asking for the password. And now when I give that, it already exists. The team is already there, but I did not get this message that is not a sudo user. So let's create another group. Group add, let's call that as team 1. You see that here now? So there is a group that is being created by me now, okay, where that group name is called as what? team1. Okay, so first command is clear, everyone, how to create a group. Now what we will do is we'll go to this group and we will add some users to this group. How do I add users to this particular group? Hold on 1 minute. Right. Observe now. Okay, screen share नहीं किया, staff तक बात चली गई. Right. Okay, staff कॉल करके बोले सर आपने स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं किया हुआ है. ठीक है. Everything okay now? Observe now. I'm going ahead and copying it. And now what I'll do is I'll go back here to Mike and I will use this command. What is that? Sudo user mod -ag, which is append to group. Append to group. What is the group name here? The group name here I've given is what? Team1. And I want to add to this group the user I want to add to this group is firstly Mike. Did you understand now? So now what has happened? Mike is being added to this particular group. Okay, I created a group and one user is being added. Let's add another user. Who is the another user I have here now? Stalin. Okay, can I create more users with Mike? Yes, because Mike is a pseudo user. He's a super user. He has got that privileges. He can also create more users. Let's try to do that. Sudo, right? User, sudo user add, and let's create one more user. Let's call that user as what? Kuch to naam bata do. Alice, right? And now Alice already exists. So good, we will add Alice to the group then. Right? We will create Alex. Alex bhi hoga. Alex nahi hai. Chalo. Now we will do sudo passwd. What is that? Alex. And we'll give some password for Alex. Fine. Is this clear? Retype the password. Now I want to add, okay, one more user to this particular group. How do we do that? Press up arrow. User sudo user mod -ag, which is nothing but append to group team1. One more user, I'm going to append Alex. Totally, how many users are there in this group? Tell me now. 3 users. Excellent. Why are we creating a group at the first place? Because if all the people are in the one group, I can set the permissions on that group easily, right? Second, if I want to do some shared work, I want to create one shared folder. And that shared folder, I want to now, okay, make a group of people to work on that. There is some project which is a common project, and all that project, let's say configuration files, XYZ things, I've created in one folder, and that folder should be accessible by all the users in that group. Then I can use here the concept of what now? Groups. Okay, so let's move ahead further. Let's see the next command. So how many commands covered? Sudo group add developers. So what this will do? Sudo group add developers will create a group. How do I add the users to the group? Sudo user mod -ag, G capital. Then after that we'll give the group name and then we will give the user name. Fine. Now I want to remove the user, but before I remove the users, let's see the number of users they are present in this particular group. Okay, so what I will do is now I'll go back here to Mike. I will paste this command here, and that's nothing but what? Okay, the group name here I've given what? I've given team1. So sudo lid, okay, lid, and I'm going to give you a what? -g team1. How many users are there in that? So if you want to see all the users present in a particular group, you will just type sudo lid, right? Lid, and then I'm going to use -g and then what? Team1. Did you understand now? Okay, so if I now hit on enter, I'll get all the users that are present in this team1. Can you now tell me the command? What is the command I have to use to list all the users in the group? Sudo lid sudo lid -g group name. Remember like that. Sudo lid -g team1. Is this clear now? So this is the command I'll be using it to see the number of users present in that group. Now I want to remove a particular user from that particular group. How do I remove it? So sudo gpasswd -d for remove delete. Okay, that is delete this user from the group. -d and then username and delete it. So what I will do here, I'll paste this here. Now understand what is here, the name of our group, team 1. Which is the user you want to remove? Alice. Hyphen D, GPASSWD. So sudo GPASSWD hyphen D Alice team 1. What it will do? Removing user Alice from group 1. User Alice is not a member of team 1 now. Alex. Okay. Alex. Okay. So let's type here Alex. Is this clear, everybody now? Removing user Alex from the group team 1. Let's see now how many members are there in the group now. What is the command? Sudo lid hyphen G group name. How many users are left now? Okay, so tell me which is the first command that I've used here now. How do you create a group? Tell me. Sudo group add, then what? Group name. Can you tell me how will you now basically create a group here? How will you create a group? Tell me. Sudo group add group name. Is this clear? Next command. How will you add a user to the group? Sudo user mod. Sudo user mod. What is that? Hyphen ag group name and then username. Again, tell me what is the command to add a user to the group? Sudo user mod. Yes, hyphen ag. Remember that ag is append to group. Whom you are appending to group? Alex. To which group? Team. So it is append, okay, to group name and then username. Is this clear, everyone? Now, how will you see all the users in a particular group? Sudo lid lid hyphen g team 1. Is this clear? How will you remove the users from a particular group? Sudo g passwd hyphen d username group name. Okay, is this clear, everyone? Okay. Now, we people have just seen how to remove the user from the group. The next thing, display the users in the group. That has been done. Now I want to see a particular user belongs to which group. So I'm going to just write ID and I'm going to give you a mic. Now by using ID mic, it will tell us which all groups mic belongs to. Now mic belongs to 3 groups by default. This one I've added earlier. So group 101, okay, 1001 mic. So the group mic belongs to its own group. You know that whenever we create a user, by default one group is created for that user. Same way, team is another group and team 1 is another group. How many groups does mic belong to? 3 groups. I've talked about why multiple groups is required. We talked about that wheel group, ADM group in my last series of lecture. If you have not watched that, please watch that, because there I've given the complete introduction about why a user is attached to multiple groups. Now, if I want to see ID, let's say Stalin. Okay, how many groups Stalin belongs to now? 3 groups. But now what about ID? This all has been added earlier by me. So don't get confused. Now let's type here ID and now I will give you Alex. How many groups belongs to Alex? Only 1 group Alex. Okay, like this you can see that user belongs to which all group, and every group I can set particular permissions, and with that permissions the user can work basically in that particular group. Okay, is this clear? Online students, are you all clear with this? Are you able to understand this? Please tell me. Right, now let's continue further. Excellent. So we have seen these many commands so far. So display groups a user belongs to. Now delete a group. I want to delete the group itself. I don't want to keep that group team. I want to delete that group team. How do I delete it now? In order to delete a group, we have a command. We have a command what? Sudo, what is that? Group del team. And now you notice the group is being deleted. Correct? The group is being what now? Deleted. So using this command, we can delete the group. Now if you want to rename, which group did I delete now? Can you tell me which group did I delete now? Team group. Now team group is not there. Correct? Now after deleting this, I want to rename this team 1 to team. How do I rename the group? How do I rename the group? Okay, so let's go here. Let's go here, right? And we will now use this particular command. Okay, we will use this particular command. Let's paste this here. Okay, so I want to now delete this particular group, wherein I want to rename the group. So the group name, I want to rename that to team, and the current name of the group is what? Team 1. Let's see. Everybody got it now? Yes, everyone clear with it? Now let's use this command sudo lid hyphen g. I will not use team 1. I'll not use team 1. Hold on. Okay, I'll not use team 1. It says team 1 does not exist. Did you see that? Team 1 does not exist. Okay, so again let me try. Again let me try with team after renaming. You saw that the group name got renamed. Is this part clear for all of you? Yes. Now if you want to see which all group your EC2 user belongs to, EC2 is the root user. So it is not that EC2 user is now added to all these groups. Correct? Keep EC2 user always separate. Okay, do not add that to any groups. Better create users with the sudo permissions and then give them the access. Got it? Because EC2 user, I will be logging in with PEM file, but other users, I can give them username, password authentication to log into the server. So better you create the groups and make them as a part of the group. Don't use EC2 user. So which user this EC2 belongs to, I've already mentioned all that thing. And each group, what permissions it is giving, we have also discussed about it in my earlier series of lecture. Is this part clear, everyone? Now further to understand groups, firstly you will have to learn permissions, right? Because until and unless you don't have an idea about permissions, why permissions are given in Linux, we will not be able to understand groups. Because the purpose of creating groups is setting up the permissions on the groups, and when we add the users to that group, definitely the users will automatically get all that permissions associated with them. Am I right? But we don't know the concept of permissions now. So let us move further, and we guys are now going to look at the concept of what? Permissions here. Okay, let us look at the concept of what? Permission. Now let's basically move ahead further. No, see, it's not about, okay, how it is indicated. See, once you have the sudo's permission, you can run the commands that you want to do it. That is important basically when it comes from your project point of view. Now let's move ahead further. Now what we will do is, we will now create one file. Okay, touch, and let's give some file name. I will give it as file1.txt. Now I've created a file. If I now do ls-l, you see here, in the first place that you see here now, hyphen, that is hyphen rw, hyphen r hyphen, and then after that we have here r hyphen hyphen. These are something to do with the permissions. Let's understand this in a detailed manner. What is this all about actually? What are these files permission, directory permissions? What does it mean? Okay. Now, why permissions needs to be given? Firstly, tell me that. Why do we require permissions to be given? Please tell me. For what reason you would be giving permissions? See, file permissions in Linux are used to secure and protect the file data by controlling who can access and modify the files and directory, right? By setting up the permissions on that, I'm giving some safety to my files. Who can basically modify that file? Who can basically execute that file? That file might be a program file. It might be a script file. Now, script file, definitely we will run that. Correct? Like how Java file also, you basically compile that and then you run that. So programs are basically executed. Correct? So I want to now give certain permissions on that file. Let's say this user, okay, he cannot basically execute this file. This user can only read the file. This user cannot write anything into the file. Okay? Or it can even be a folder, that who is authorized to see the content of the folder, who is authorized to delete the content of the folder, who is authorized to modify the content of the folder. Okay, these permissions to set, we people will have to learn the concept of file permissions in Linux. Okay, so read this carefully now. File permissions in Linux are used to secure and protect file data by controlling who can access and modify files and directories. These permissions ensure that only authorized users can perform specific actions on the files and directories. Okay, so I might like to give only a read permission for certain users, but I don't want to give them the write permission and execute permission. I can do all that with this concept. How? So for that, firstly, you need to understand, okay, that when you see this file permissions, they are categorized into three types. What are these three types? They are categorized into one. There is R, that stands for read, that grants the permission to view the content of the file or list the contents of directory. Whenever a permission is given as read, if it is a text file, I will read the content. If it is a directory, if it is a folder, then I will not read a folder. I will list the content of the folder. Who can list the content of the folder? Who can read the content of a text file? That permissions are basically what represented with R. Did you understand now? When you see letter R, it means read. I can read a text file. I can list the content of what directories. Okay. Second thing, we have write, which means allows modifying the content of a file or creating, deleting, renaming files within a directory. So who can basically modify the content of a file? Creating, deleting, renaming files within the directory. So whenever a write permission is given, this all he is authorized to do it. What all is authorized to do it? It, okay, allows modifying the content of a file, creating, deleting, and renaming files within the directory. This all permissions basically will be getting it when I go with write. Similarly, if I go with execute, execute permissions are required when I've developed some scripts. I want to run some scripts. Okay, in order to run that script, you should have execute permission, which means put together there are three permissions. What is that? R, W, X. What are the three permissions? R, W, X. What is R? Read. What is W? Write. What is X? Execute. Is this clear, everyone? Now, observe the next thing. Now, when you see this file permission, see here, when I just did this ls command, okay, I executed this ls command here, you see that I got something here which looks very weird in the beginning. But if you carefully observe, there are altogether three sections. Okay, there are altogether, I can say now, there are three sections I can divide this particular permissions into. Okay, this is section 1, section 2, and this altogether is something different. Which means for me now, this put together is one section, which is a set of 3 characters. This is another section, which is again set of 3 characters. This is another section, which is set of 3 characters. And altogether, this is another section. Let's start with this. What does this dash it means? Okay, what does this dash it means? Hyphen it means. Hyphen here it means, if I write hyphen, it means it is an ordinary file. When I say file, don't think of only text file. It can be a movie file, it can be a video file, it can be a text file. Okay, it can be an image file. Whenever I want to represent a regular file, when I say a regular file, okay, hyphen is represented for a regular file. Whenever I say it's a regular file, it can be a text file, it can be a movie file, it can be a image file. Okay, then basically we start with this. But suppose, had it been, I create a folder. Just see this here. How do you create a folder? I hope you remember. MK, dir. And so let's create one folder. Let's create one folder with the name. Okay, let's call that as F1. Okay, okay, we'll give some other name. Folder 1. Is this clear? Now, let's do ls-l. Now you see that when it's a folder, it starts with D. Observe this here. Is it starting with basically hyphen, or is it starting with D? What is it starting with? Huh? It's starting with what? Basically, it's starting with D. So if you now observe here again, in this case, I have this permissions where these three things are to do with permissions. These three things are to do with permissions. But this one tells that these permissions now basically that I've applied on happens to be a folder. Happens to be what? A folder. Did you understand the difference now? Is this first thing clear in your file permissions? Now, what are these three things given here for? Now, the three things given here, these permissions are the permissions for the user or owner. Owner means one who has created this file, one who has created this folder. He is the owner of it. The user who has created that particular file, for that owner, the permission is read write. Hyphen means execute permission is not there for him. Okay, so this first box that you see here now, here I'm now displaying the permissions of what? An owner. An owner can perform read write operation on the file, and he cannot execute that file by default. The second box that you see here now, it is for group. It is for what? The groups. Just now we understood what groups are. What groups are? Collection of users. Okay, so these are the permissions that is now applied on a group. When you write r hyphen hyphen, which means anybody in that group can only perform a read operation, but they cannot perform a write and execute operation. Did you understand here now? Okay, and the last one is others. Others, it means not the owner, other users. Owner has created the file, but there are other users who are trying to access that file. So what is a permission you want to give it as other user? I logged in as Mike, I created a file. I'm the owner. For me, the permission is read, write, but execute is not there by default. But when you log in as Stalin, you are an other user. As an other user now, the permission for the file happens to be what? A read permission, but there is no write and execute permission. Did you understand this part, everyone? Right? Same thing applies on the folder. What is the first box for? It is for user or owner. Here owners are called as user. Here owners are called as user. When I use the term user, it means he is the owner of the file. What he can do? Read, write and execute. And it's a group. On group, what is applied? And here others. Okay, for others, what is it? Read and execute. We cannot here perform write operation. Okay, is this clear, online students? Can we proceed further? Please tell me. अरे मैं देता हूँ नोट्स, रुक जाओ, सबको क्लब करके देता हूँ मैं, रुक जाओ सर, बहुत मजा आ रहा है पढ़ने में, मतलब नहीं पढ़ाई अच्छे से करो। मैं पिछले बैच में बोल रहा था, मैं ये स्पेशल क्लास डाल के घर जाते जाते मुझे 10 बज जा रहा है, राइट? तो क्लासेस लाइटली नहीं लेना है, बिकॉज ये कंटेंट डिजाइन करने में काफी मेहनत डाल रहा हूं मैं, राइट? द रीजन बीइंग इज द फर्दर कंटेंट्स आल्सो व्हाट आई हैव डिजाइंड इट, होपफुली when you see that you will realize that's been very much simplified, especially students who want to go as DevOps engineer with less coding. This window we have opened it up specially for them. Okay, and with combination things will be good. Chalo aage badhte. Now I hope you understood this. Now quickly read this thing. Did you understand this thing? Please tell me. Quickly read. Are you able to understand this? Yes. Next thing. Okay, types of permissions. Are you clear with this one now? Now, let's basically continue further. So this has been explained. The first three characters, users or owner permission, middle character, group permissions, last three characters is other permissions. Right? तो आजकल चैट जीपीटी होने से काम इजी हो जाता है मेरा. To be very honest, right? मेरे दिमाग में जो है चैट जीपीटी में डाल के निकालना इजी हो जा रहा है. Right? So I'm majorly I've been preparing this note content, okay, with what is there in my mind using chat GPT. Okay, तो देखो chat GPT अपना काम जल्दी कर दे रहा है. Okay, so anyways, let's continue further now. Now, if you notice here, the next thing, there is some more things we are going to look at now. How do we modify the permissions? So these are the permissions, agreed. But I want to give some permissions and remove some permissions. I want to give some permissions and then what? Remove some permissions. So how do I do this now? How do I give a permission and how do I remove a permission? For a particular user, for a particular group, or of a particular, for other users. How do I do this now? So we have here this plus for adding a permission, minus for removing the permission, right? So let's try to see this here. Now, equals is for set specific permission overriding existing ones. Fine. Is this clear, everyone? Let's try to understand this here now. Firstly, we are going to look at the permission, give permission to the user. Now, when I say user, we are going to represent the user with U, and we are going to represent the group with G, and other users with O. So what you want to do with which user are represented with these three characters, correct? Because when you see the permission, there are three things present there. User is present, group is present, other is present. If I use U, which means I'm trying to modify the permissions of user. If I use G, which means I'm modifying the permissions for a group. And if I'm using basically, okay, out there O, it means I'm making an attempt to modify the permissions of what? Others. I hope this part is clear, all of you now. Yes, everybody got this? Okay. So let's try to see this here. So firstly, I'll try to modify the permission for a user. So see this here. We will now quickly type here ls-l. Okay. So I have a file called as file1.txt. Now what I will do is, I want to change the permission. Now to change the permission, we will use chmod, right? Chmod, and then after that, I'm going to use a u. U means what? User. Plus, what is the permission you want to give? Can you see this file1? It doesn't have execute permission. So if I now type here x, for which file? File1.txt. File1.txt. Observe what is happening. If I now do ls-l, what happened? Right? Was I able to change it? Yes. Let's say I want to now change the permission of basically group. I want to change the permission of the group. I want to give the right permission for the group. So how do I do that now? chmod, then what will you use? G. Excellent. Then what will you do? X. Then after that, what you will do? File1.txt. Is this clear, everyone? Now let's see ls-l, which is long listing, and you see this here, what it says. I've got here now read and then execute permission. I want to also give the right permission to that group. How will you do it? chmod g plus w, which is a file, file1.txt, right? ls-l. Is this clear, everyone? Yes? Did that happen now? Right permission? Okay. I want to remove the permissions now. Any guess? Very simple, right? So we will use chmod, and what we will do now, I want to remove the permission for a group. I want to remove the right permission. What you will do? Minus W, is it? Sure? Paka? Yes? Let's do ls-l. Is it removed? Yeah? How do I change the permission for other users? I want to give read and write for other users. chmod, what we will do? O. O is for others. Plus, what is it? Whatever you want to do it. Right? Okay. You want to give now W. Which file? File1.txt. I hope this part is clear. All of you. ls-l. Okay. So you notice now that these permissions are being set here with the help of, okay, chmod, and okay, we are using this read, write, execute permissions on a file, on a group, and we can also basically set these permissions for other users as well, what they can do with the content, what the owner has created it. Okay, so this is what basically we have achieved it when it comes to what? The files permissions. Okay, now many times, see, when you go to online, and when you just look at the file permissions, I want you people to also start exploring here, right? Don't restrict yourself only to the lectures basically, but when you want certain things to explore by yourself and execute things, you can always use ChatGPT, because these are small commands. ChatGPT will not go wrong here. Okay, this is my personal experience. Is this clear? There are a lot of commands for groups I can come up with. Now if you look at just groups, okay, in Linux, now you see that you will be getting beautiful content, basically the groups basics, group files, right? You see that a lot of things you'll start seeing it, how to create a group, then after that, how do you add a user to the group, right? Then after that, groups username. See, view groups, okay, view groups a user belong to. To view groups that a specific user belongs to, we can use groups command. See, I can use this particular groups command, and I can give the username instead of giving ID here, right? So let's try this now. I'm giving this, and I have here a user, let's say called as Mike. Can we see what all groups is belonging to now? Mike and team. So it's not just ID. I can also use the groups command, correct? Let's move further here. Let's see some more commands basically, and we'll try to understand that now. Okay, so we will go here to AWS. कहाँ पे भाई? यहाँ पे. हाँ, ये वाला. Right. You see that now ID user alternative way. Correct? We can use the groups command. And you can see deleting a group. Sudo group del group name. Right? So you can always use chat GPT. If you want to basically get the Linux command, सारा दिमाग में रख के दिमाग का भरता नहीं बनाना है, काम करना सीखो, टॉपिक समझो, कमांड को फटाफट मोबाइल फोन चैट जीपीटी से निकालो, कमांड टाइप करो, काम करो. समझे? इंटरव्यू पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बेसिक्स कमांड्स याद रखना है. Why this command is used, what is the concept, keep that in mind. Is this clear, everyone? Let's move ahead further. See, now they're using permissions. Now this permissions are not given the permissions basically I have given it. So it says this command gives permission: read, write, execute permission for a file owner and a group, but no permission to other users. Okay, so we will continue further. We will look at permissions giving with the numeric values. Permissions giving with what? Numeric value. So permission, अब बोलो मेरा नोट्स चाहिए, चैट जीपीटी चाहिए? हाँ हाँ, अच्छा ठीक है, आपको जो चाहिए मिल जाएगा. राइट. परमिशंस, ओके, हम करेंगे विद न्यूमरिक, न्यूमरिक फॉर्मेट. परमिशंस विद व्हाट? Numeric formats. Is this clear, everyone? Now if you observe here the permissions with numeric format, this is yet another way of giving the permissions. So structure of numeric permissions, very very important. See, right now I gave the permissions as what? Using O plus R, O plus R, U plus R, U plus X, U minus X, and I was using the characters. I can also give file permissions in your Linux by using a read, write, and execute. For example, let's say I want to execute, okay, I want to give basically this command execute for a owner, and I want to give the command execute for a group and execute for a user. How do I do it? So what we will do here, we'll just type chmod. I'll give here 1 1 1. The first one is for the user, that's owner. The second one is for the group, and the third one is for the others. But which file you want to do it? File 1.txt. Let's do ls-l. See this here. What happened? The owner has only execute permission, right? Probably you developed a script file, and let's assume that the code in that script file, I don't want any fellow to modify that. I don't want anybody to modify that file. He can only run that file because it's a configuration file. Okay, I've developed some configuration file, and I don't want basically that configuration file, okay, that configuration file to be what? Basically modified. Okay, so in that case, what happens is now I can use this thing. Okay, I want to run a script, and that script will run some commands. See why we use scripts? Because scripts has a potential of automating a lot of things that you want to do. Scripts can automate the task, right? A script can basically automate a lot of your day-to-day tasks. So I can probably create one script which can run the commands every day, night, 9 o'clock automatically. Correct? Now that basically script is not eligible for writing anything into it. You have got permission only to executing that. Okay, so I can do that. But now let's assume now I see the next command here. The next command that I see here is something like this one. Now if I use 2, then it will give the write permission. Okay, I have certain questions here which I'll be asking you, but see this here, chmod, I'll be using write command. What is the thing for write command? Which is the numerical value? 2. If I use 2 2 2, what does this mean? 2 2 2, what does it mean? Write for user, write for group, write for others. Which file do you want to do that? File 1.txt. Let's do ls-l. What happened? All execute permissions are gone, only write permissions are there, right? Which means I'm able to put write permission, but when I put write, execute is gone. Correct? Do you agree with that? Now let's say I want to do a read operation. How do I do read operation? Okay, so I will give here chmod 444, and I will give it here as file 1.txt. What is happening? Can you tell me? ls-l, what happened? All are having now only read. But sir, what if I want to set write, read? I want to set write, read, execute. How do I do that? So just see this here quickly. Add this thing 4 plus 2 plus 1. What is that? 7. So if I give it a 7, what permission am I getting it? Chmod 7. What permission is set? User is getting all. समझे क्या? So you have to remember one formula here. 4 2 का 1. 4 2 का 1 ही है ना? हाँ? 4 2 का 1. My name is Lakhan. Yes or no? करेक्ट. ये गाना याद रखोगे तो नंबर याद रहेगा. 1 2 का 4 है, 4 2 का 1 था गाना वो. 1 2 का 4 था क्या? उल्टा कर दो. Right? No problem. Now see this here. I'm going to now add that number 7. 7 is for what? Read, write, execute for what? User. Next 7 is for what? Group. Next 7 is for what? Let's see this here. File and 1.txt. Now can we see here ls-l? What's happening? Did you get it? Now let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. Let's do one thing. Now I will use here chmod. I will use 7. 7 is on what? User. I will now use here 4. 4 is on what? Group. And now I'll use 1. 1 is on 1. 1 is on what? So tell me now, your user has what all permission? Read, write, execute. Can you tell me what permission your group has got? 4 is for what? Read. And what other users have got permission? Execute. Okay, let's see this here. File, 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 1.txt. ls-l. Did this happen? Okay, now let's do one thing. I want now, let's go back to this formula. Okay, now if I add 4 plus 2, what is it? 6. So if I use 6, what is it going to give me? Sure? Sure? It will give me what? Read and write. Are you sure about it? Let's see this here. I'll now use chmod. I will now use 7, but I will use a 6. What is 6? Read and write. What is read and write? Huh? 4 plus, whatever addition you are doing is 4 plus 2. What is 4? Read. What is 2? Write. Okay. Then I'll use here 2. What is 2? Okay. Let's see. File 1.txt. ls-l. Did that happen? Check that quickly. Huh? Read, write. Did you understand now? It is all the plus that you do here to give the permissions. If you're using numbers. Okay. Now let's do one thing. I'll use 3. What is 3 used for? Write and execute. Okay. If I now use 5, what is it? That's it. So you write, whenever basically you're giving commands, keep this formula in mind. 4, 2, 1. 4 is for read, 2 is for write, and 1 is for execute. Is this clear? If I give 7, 7, 5, 7 is for read, write, execute. Again 7, read, write, execute. 5 for read and execute. Excellent. If I now use 6, 6, 6, 6. Read, write, read, write, read, write. If I use 5, 5, 5. Read, execute, read, execute, read, execute. If I use 0, 0, 0. हाँ? एरर आएगा? एरर आएगा क्या? इतना कॉन्फिडेंटली गलत कैसे बोल सकते हो भाई आप लोग? राइट? थोड़ा तो मतलब अपने को सोचना चाहिए. सारा कर देगा 0. Yes or no? कॉन्फिडेंटली गलत आंसर्स बोल दो भाई आप लोग. बहुत डेंजरस हो आप लोग. Right? Everybody got this now? Everyone clear with this part? Any questions, any queries in today's class? Please tell me. हाँ? हाँ? हम देखेंगे ये permissions examples. We'll see it practically. Just give me some time. You will understand that. Okay, we will understand that particular thing. ये कैसे करेगी, क्या करेगी? Logically you're correct. Write करेंगे तो read करेंगे, read करेंगे तो write नहीं करेगी. ये सारी चीजें we will take one small exercise and we'll try to see that particular thing. But I hope everybody got the concept of basically file permissions. Okay, everybody got this part? Yeah. So that's it, guys. I'm going to stop here. Please start writing down all small notes, because here theory questions will not be asked. They just ask you some commands. They'll ask you some topics. You have to just explain that the way you've understood. So the way I'm explaining, if you prepare the notes that way, done. Okay. See, you might not get a lot of questions here on Linux. Basically, in interviews, major questions will come on AWS services. That's one major part. The tools of DevOps that we are going to use it, major questions are going to come there. This is a major part. But Linux is very important because without that, we cannot move further at all. Okay. Concepts wise, be ready with all of those things. Today's class, I hope all of you have understood that well. Yes. I deleted the group team, but after deleting the group team, which one I'm renaming it? Team 1 to team. I deleted the group team. After deleting team, I renamed team 1 to again team. Did you understand what I did in that example? Okay, guys, bye then. What if I give them more than 7? देखिए देखो क्या होता है. अब आपको एक्सप्लोर करना है. I'm not renaming deleted file. I deleted team. Team was deleted. So team is not there. Which group is there with me? Team 1. So I'm renaming team 1 again to team. Team 1 I'm renaming to team. I'm not deleting the file and renaming that. The deleted file name what was there,